Hi everyone, and thank you so much, Maria, for inviting me. I'm really excited to be here and really looking forward to seeing you next week in person. So I'm going to talk about the studies conducted in my lab, which is in Bar-Ilan University as part of the psychology department, where we provide subsidized treatment to the community. We see people who suffer from all kinds of problems, but I'm going to focus specifically on people who suffer from depression in this talk. So as I guess you all know, many people in the world suffer from depression, around 322 million people. Yet depression often goes undetected. Many people who suffer from depression do not even know that they can be helped. There is a very limited accessibility all over the world. We see it here in Israel, but we know that it is the problem in all over the Western world, that there are much more people in need than qualified providers that can help them. Another main problem is diagnosis. Current diagnostic systems like the DSM and the ICD are limited in their ability to capture the intra-individual variability and the interpersonal heterogeneity of depression. And the main problem is that current treatments are not good enough. For 4 decades, we're studying this issue, and believe me, there are many very strong and good studies, but still our treatment help only 50% of the clients. So 50% do not get the treatment they need. Think about it. I mean, every kind of treatment that you would provide and would say for someone who suffers from cancer, that's 50-50 that you would help him or not. This is really problematic. So we must improve the treatment that we provide, and we must do something that will change that. We're studying it for too long. And an interesting observation, which is again observed across studies all over the world, is that therapists differ in their ability to help. So while on average we help 50% of our clients, so there are therapists who we call super shrinks that across their caseload are able to help 80% of their clients and to help them achieve significant improvement in their systems, in their symptoms. So if we could uncover the mechanism that serve these super shrinks, that would be really helpful. And this is what we're trying to do. So we are a team of mental health researchers. Wolfgang Lutz is here in the picture. He has a very similar clinic to what we have in Bar-Ilan University, also collects a large amount of data, but we collaborate also with other clinics in the UK and, of course, other clinics in Israel. So we have data in English, German, and Hebrew mainly. And a lot of collaboration and very fun collaboration with Maria Liakata and her incredible team, and with Bjorn Schuler, who just returned from a visit in Munich, who does multimodal analysis, AI, integrating multimodal of video and audio specifically. And one important element in this sort of collaboration is the data, of course. So one data set that we focus on is psychotherapy session data. We have in Bar-Ilan University already collected for 8 years data from psychotherapy session, recorded sessions. So we have audio, video, physiology, a lot of questionnaires from the beginning and end of treatment, and session by session throughout treatment. So clients and therapists complete questionnaires every session. We also have physiological and hormonal data as well. And we have similar data, as I mentioned, in Wolfgang's clinic in Trier, which is in German, and in Sheffield in English. So our vision is to advance precision in the treatment of depression. What we're trying to do is to develop a trans-theoretical framework that capture intrapersonal within patient and interpersonal between patient and therapist dynamics in psychotherapy that are indicative of change in depression severity over time. So we start by trying to capture moment by moment, very small elements, verbal and non-verbal elements. We try to scale up the data, then to be able to cluster analyze these data and to be able to predict micro level, session level, and treatment level outcome. And the final goal is to be able to develop decision support tools, both for therapists that will augment their ability to help their patients, and also self-help support tools for patients that can help them between session, at follow-up, and monitoring them over time. So one main step in this collaboration is developing a data-driven. It is a combination of a data-driven and theoretically based theory, and this we call it the mind, the multimodal interpersonal and interpersonal dynamics. The idea is that it moves the focus from categorical classification of trait like psychopathology, like depression, anxiety, which are too crude to capture the dynamics and the heterogeneity of depression, to modifiable intrapersonal dynamics. And when I'm talking about modifiable, so we talk about trying to identify not only the symptoms, not only the limitation, not only what doesn't work, but also what works for a person, their strengths, their adaptive voices. And when we talk about the dynamics, so of course, all of us all throughout this morning talk about temporality, about states, about changes over time. So this is a main changing focus as compared to more classical systems, diagnostic systems. And we also try, when we are looking at the dialogue between the client and the therapist and what can be helpful, so we are moving from manual disorder-focused treatments like CBT or psychodynamic manuals to something which is much more interactive. And we try to identify the dynamics between patient and therapist that are tailored to patient-specific need at specific moments. So currently we are integrating ideas that come from various psychotherapy models and that they are considered very, very common. We're trying to break it down to core building blocks, which are acceptable across different models. So all models will agree with me, I think, that affect, behavior, cognition, and desire are very, very central element in capturing a person's self-state. We call them ABCD elements. And we're trying to identify adaptive and maladaptive states or voices. Let me give you an example. So, for example, if I'm thinking about a client of mine, Ruth, pseudonym, 40-year-old woman, who suffer from major depressive disorder, and she attributes her current episode to feeling hopeless about her future. She devoted many, many years to motherhood, and she doesn't know how she's going to come back to her career. And she's hopeless about that, and she feels unsupported by her husband. So, for example, she would tell me that this morning around the breakfast table, she was thinking, and she wanted to share with her husband the fact that she wants to apply to this program that she was once accepted to before the kids and everything. But she thought that anyway, he will criticize her, and anyway, she will not be accepted to this program. So she decided not to tell him and not to do this phone call to find out about the details. So we can see that her expectation, the D element, the desire, but it is a maladaptive expectation, is that she will be criticized and she will not be accepted, right? Her basic need for competence and for relatedness, she already assumes that it will not happen, right? And her behavior is avoidance. She's avoiding both telling her husband, sharing her experience with her husband, and she's avoiding making this phone call and trying to be accepted. Her cognition, the C elements, is that she's perceiving herself as incompetent and her husband as rejecting. Maybe he is critical, but she's not even trying. And her affect is hopeless. What is interesting is that when we listen to people, and this is something that amazes me because we see it both in the psychotherapy data and in the social media data, and now we see it also when we analyze interaction between couples in a different data set, is that when you will listen carefully to Ruth, for example, you will hear that she also has an adaptive voice. Okay, she knows that she's very, very intelligent, actually. She was once accepted to this program. And she knows also that when she shares her feelings with her husband, so he can be supportive. So if you would carefully listen to it and would be able to amplify this adaptive voice, that could be very, very beneficial. And actually what we see is that talented therapists are actually not imposing the adaptive voice, but they're amplifying it. They hear it and they amplify it. It's there. So what we're trying to do is breaking down the interaction into small elements of ABCD elements and adaptive and maladaptive states. And also we use the most familiar across psychotherapy models, interventions like empathy, meaning making, support, and so on. So we're annotating it moment by moment, and we are also summarizing the segments and the therapy in different ways. And we are trying, now that we have these building blocks, we are trying to identify dynamics. So, for example, we know that at the intrapersonal level, flexibility is very, very predictive of depression. I mean, rigidity, the opposite of that. So being flexible and changing over time is indicative of low symptoms, and rigidity is indicative of the severity of symptoms of depression. We also look at coherence between modalities, the ability, for example, to express emotion and to experience emotion and to have coherence between the two. At the interpersonal level, we're also looking at dynamics. So two dynamics that we specifically focus on and we found a lot of outcome about is synchrony and correlation. We know it also from the developmental literature that synchrony between dyads is very important to outcome, and in psychotherapy as well. It is very important that therapists will help their patient by being synchronized with him and helping them co-regulate their emotions and to arrive to a more baseline arousal level. And that we also know that synchrony by itself is not always beneficial because it can amplify maladaptive emotions. So we talk more about co-regulation, the ability to help someone regulate their emotions over time. So I'm very briefly going through the studies that were conducted together. So we start by annotating manually all these categories. And so the emotions, for example, and the interventions, for example, and the LLMs do a very good job in arriving into a level which is very similar to inter-rater agreement. So if humans agree about specific categories, so the LLMs quite nicely capture this level of agreement. So they tend, for example, to capture better negative emotion than positive emotion, but humans are very similar in that. They agree much more about negative emotion as compared to positive emotions. Then we can look about different dynamics. For example, we found that coherence between expressed emotions within the session and experienced emotion in self-report is associated with better outcome. In this work with Jayu and Maria's team, we automatically annotated social media data. So we identified adaptive and maladaptive voices in this data. This is actually a work that Jayu previously described, so I'm not going to go into the details. And we did a more preliminary phase of this annotation scheme. Now we are annotating it at the adaptive and maladaptive voices and trying to capture it in summaries. So I'm not going to repeat what was already demonstrated by Jayu. We are comparing the summaries that were generated by humans to summaries that were generated by LLMs. And we found that humans are still more precise than the models, but that the model that was developed by Maria's team, the THVAE, was more precise than state-of-the-art models. And qualitative analysis revealed that humans were more personalized, understood causality, and provided more in-depth summaries, but that the models provided more complete description with no shortcuts. And the next step, as Jenny described earlier, is our SteelSpsych shared task, where now we're trying to capture temporality. So the task is both to be able to identify evidence for adaptive and maladaptive states and to capture the well-being over time, how it fluctuates and change over time, and to create both post-level summaries that integrate the interaction between the adaptive and maladaptive states, but also a timeline level summary, which actually capture the changes in the self states over time. Another direction that we're trying to develop together.
Dana, we're running late.
Okay, so really briefly, we're trying to integrate the multimodal, the voice and the facial expression to be able to better capture the states and the dynamics. So I'm not going to get into all these, just to continue and to summarize that we're trying to develop these systems that will be able to provide support both to therapists as a feedback in the end of each session and for clients as self-help. And we hope that these tools will provide much more flexibility to clients like Ruth, for example, that might use these tools between sessions at follow-up for monitoring. I do not believe personally that it's going to replace the face-to-face sessions with therapists sometimes, but it can provide so much more flexibility to people and to help so many people in need. So I'm looking forward to all the next steps and to the collaboration with this incredible team. So thank you so much for listening.
Thank you very much, Dana. Thank you. So are there any quick questions? Or online, perhaps? There's one question here from the audience.
What was the, thank you very much for a very interesting presentation. I'm looking forward to more of your work. What was the most surprising finding that you found so far?
Wow, that's a huge question. Well, it's not something, just one finding. It's a combination of many, many findings. So, for example, we do find that most therapists focus on dampening the maladaptive emotion and not amplification of the adaptive emotions. And that therapists who are able to amplify adaptive emotions are better in helping their patient. So, and this is something that we see in different data sets, that therapists tend to do that, to calm down their clients all the time instead of amplifying the strength. So I think this has important clinical implications. So this is one finding that comes to mind. But I will think about what is the most important one. I don't know right now. Too excited.